Testing. Hello there, internet denizens, and welcome back to another Fundamentalist Fails. It is Friday for me. Your day may differ, totally understandable. It may be Thursday night, but today we are looking at yet another awesome scenario where fundamentalists are making claims, other fundamentalists are denying them. It's all wild, and I was so happy to find this story and this series of events last night. I was overjoyed. It was hilarious. YouTube is creating a comment ranking system. Okay, that seems vaguely Chinese, I guess. I don't know how to take that, Jess. I have no idea. But good morning or good evening. How are you doing? This one's hilarious because it is so basically a bit of background. There has been a site. I'm sorry. One of the sites that there's been a lot of focus on for the final resting place of the Ark is Drupanar, right? So Drupanar was a captain that found this boat-shaped outcropping. Let's call it outcropping. Back ages ago. I'm not sure when it was, like back in the 70s or something like that. I'll just get up the Wikipedia page because it's the site's not really important. So it exposed the formation in 1948. It was Turkish army captain. 1959. Okay, so basically 1960 roughly was when it was, right. And then Ron Wyatt came along in 1977. And he tried to get interest in the site. So, of course, with all of these sort of really ridiculous Ark sites, of course, Ron Wyatt is involved. If you're unfamiliar with Ron Wyatt, he is a fraud. In my opinion, he's a fraud, but he's supposed to be an explorer and an adventurer, and he styles himself as sort of a modern day Indiana Jones, or he did at the time, styled himself, but he claims to have found everything from Noah's Ark to the Ark of the Covenant to, the tomb of Jesus, and sort of, it's, really, everything and anything biblical related that he could possibly find, he claims to have found. Now, the problem was that when and Pinworm for $2, an episode of Fundy Fails, and I'm here for it. Well, I'm here for it too, and this one's beautiful. It's absolutely great because it's just, it gets ridiculous, like seriously. But he kind of drew attention to it. And thank you, Pinworm. It's good to see you. It really is. Yeah, it's fantastic to see you here. It's basically that Ron Wyatt is known for his fraudulent claims and these things that he claims, like he found the tomb of Jesus, but he can't tell anybody, and all of this kind of stuff. But so this Drupanar site got a lot of publicity because there was this really big push, mostly by sort of not really the mainstream fundamentalists. I don't think Creation Ministries or CMI was really behind this one. I think that they said it was sort of not scientific the way that they were going about it. There's they were going about it in a non-scientific way, and which is kind of hilarious coming from CMI. But it kind of, so basically it all wrapped up when the University of California sent out people to basically do a coverage of it, and they found that it was just a natural formation. It really, give me 1 second. I'll find the paper essentially. I think I should be able to. I think it was under bogus Noah's Ark. I must admit, I've seen this before, and I've gotten this before to sort of debunk the whole thing. I'll give you 1 second. Yeah, and I should have a PDF here for it. Okay. So, I'll show you the site because it does like in all fairness, it like so it's basically something that looks like a boat, right? And this is the problem with these sort of um these things like it looks like a boat, therefore it is a boat kind of thing. Um, so here is the site. So this is the Drupal site, right? And this is the thing. It looks like vaguely boat shaped, and that's supposed to be the walls of the boat. Now, there was a few things that led them towards this conclusion. So, A, it looks like a boat. That's apparently evidence in their book. So, it looks like a boat, must be a boat. Okay, cool. The formations around, they sort of said it was petrified wood, but there was a sort of um, this paper done by the Department of Geological Sciences, California State University, that they basically said that it's a supposed iron bracket show that it's derived from weathered volcanic materials. So basically, they had found pieces of iron. Now they sort of said, "Oh, well, the iron was for fittings and chains for the animals," and they basically said, "Oh, we found iron. It must be the ark. Therefore, it's the ark." The problem was that when actual geologists went in, they found it to be something called limonite. Now, limonite is an iron deposit, but it hasn't actually been made into iron, so it's processing iron. So it could not possibly have been what they said it was. And the apparently petrified wood, it turned out to be just a natural geological formation, right? Like there was no petrified wood; it was just normal minerals. Yeah, so I'm not sure if you can see this. I'll zoom in. The um, I think it says something about here, like the brackets, the anchor stones. Um, weren't anchor stones. The iron bracket is composed of granules of limonite, some of which have size of shape matching those of ilmenite magnetite crystals and andesite. Yeah, they're basically um, they're not anything to do with boat building at all. Um, Volcanic rocks similar to the andesitic anchor stone. So these are the drogue stones. So I'll just sort of show you what they found. Um, okay, so this is apparently a drogue stone. Okay, and I'll just sort of bring it up. This is what they said they were using as anchors. Now, the problem is that these stones are actually found all over the mountain ranges, right? Like they were sort of saying, "Hey, these are indicative that they were using these as anchors." They were actually found all over the area. They're not anchor stones. They're just stones that people have carved a hole in, and people have come across like later and carved crosses in it. It's not actually any kind of anchor stone. It's just something that um it's just something that occurs. Totally cool. It's not what you're saying it is. So they have been absolutely busted, but for sort of um, getting the science wrong, essentially getting it completely and utterly wrong. But they're back in the news because they kind of have said that they're doing. Um, Yes, Ron Wyatt is going to put the staff down and show the burial tomb of Jesus. Yes, absolutely. No, I get you. I get you. Hmm. Yeah. So this is sort of what's happened, and that it's in the news because apparently they have done another ground penetrating radar, and they claim that no, it is Noah's Ark. And I just want to go through sort of the story that they're telling.
One of the great endeavors of archaeology is figuring out which events described in the Bible actually happened. We know Jesus lived, had a lot of followers, and that he was crucified. That is all historical fact. It's
Well, that's consensus from the historians. There is a mythicist camp. I wouldn't say that's historical fact. I'd say that consensus says that happened. We like, I think that I think there's enough people. Oh, I can turn comments on. I forgot entirely. My apologies, everybody. Um, I think that that's debatable within academic circles, but it is sort of scholar consensus that Jesus did live. I usually like I don't know. To me it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter that much. It's sort of like, well, um, even if Julius Caesar lived or didn't live, it was amalgamation of people or something like that. It doesn't really affect my life. It's interesting, and it would be a very very interesting thing to find out. But as far as the claims of creationists go, whether Jesus was a real person or it was a myth, it doesn't get you to knowing whether or not you can trust the claims of Christianity. So it doesn't really matter to me. Um, assuming that's a good question, Tori. That's a really good question. How assuming we do know it's how did we come to that conclusion? Well, a lot of scholars have based it upon writings of the people of the area. They have based it on writings of contemporary historians like Josephus, like Tacitus, who said that there were people that believed this man rose from the dead. Now, that doesn't mean that he did rise from the dead, but at least those people seem to believe that he was a real person. That doesn't say for sure, but it does suggest that he was a real person. Now, I don't know or not. I really don't know. Um, oh, I love Minuteman, Jess. I absolutely love Minuteman. Minuteman is fantastic. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I'll show you why I have such a problem with this. But yeah, I want to show this video and see what they've got to say. The new discovery of the Ark Drumpada site. This site, yeah.
It's what happened after he was crucified that depends on your faith. But with the emergence of modern astronomy and evolutionary biology, the book of Genesis hasn't held up as well. But hang on, because researchers in Turkey now claim they found indisputable evidence that the story of Noah's Ark was not a cautionary tale about the consequences of forsaking God, but a verifiable historical event.
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, I bet they do. What's weird to me is why these creationists that have indisputable fact, what they do is they run to a nearest news station and tell everybody on that. They don't publish it. They don't have people check it. They don't actually put it down. They'll run and tell somebody. And this is happening a lot. And this isn't just creationists, actually. I should amend that. Like, people are doing this who should know better, scientists. I think there is a cave I saw a Netflix thing on that later I found out that all of it's questionable. That the scientists are really being optimistic, but they're not. Like, instead of publishing, they've gone and made a documentary or something about it. Stop doing that. We'll make the documentary when it's been peer reviewed and confirmed, not when you are really, really hopeful that what you'll find is, overturns the entire field. This is a problem. This is a real problem in science.
The team at Noah's Ark's scans says this is the final resting place of Noah's Ark.
Mhm.
Well, how do they know? Well, they started with the renderings of the ship based.
Yeah. So one thing you'll notice about this, why are they only doing the inside of this structure of this outcropping? Why just this area? So when they do ground penetrating radar, and I wanna show you that they've got an entire thing for it, a site for it, right? So this is their ground penetrating radar. They've got the without and width. what struck me was you're not including any of the scans of the surrounding area, right? Like, why aren't you including a scan of everything around it for a comparison? I don't understand that. That's something I do not understand. Like, this is apparently, oh, well, it shows there's a ship. Why just that area? Why aren't you scanning the entire area and seeing what is around? I don't understand that. But I mean, their site's very well done. They've got 3D panoramic views of the Noah's Ark boat formation. You know, this is apparently it. Um, Apparently, there's discovered media there. Apparently, there's a big white box with discovered media on it. I don't understand how that works. And there's people for scale. I mean, they say it's exactly the size of Noah's Ark. I don't know about that one, Chief, but you know, I I don't know. But in the past, they have claimed that these outcroppings are like the ribs of the boat kind of thing. They're just natural minerals. So um, I have some doubts. I have some real doubts. Okay, so my other, whoops, sorry, share this tab. Sorry, I'll go back a little bit.
Detailed specifications on how to build the Ark. The team claims those scans.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true, Jackson. That's absolutely true. And we don't know exactly how big. So it gives some real wiggle room as to the size of the arc, because if you use like Egyptian cubits, it'll come out something different as other cubits you use. So there's problems there with sort of saying, well, it's exactly the right size, because the sizes that it could be are not exact, right? We're not saying, hey, it was exactly this amount of centimeters, because as Jackson points out, if a cubit can be anywhere from this much to this much, you've got a lot of wiggle room there to say it's exactly the right size. Hey, Deviant. Yeah, so News Nation um, News Nation is I think it's Chris Cuomo's news channel kind of thing that he started up. So it's it's all I could find, quite frankly. Well, it's not all I could find. Good. So wait, it's not all I could find. I got an Australian news channel reporting on it, and like it is great. It's fantastic. Look, I'll say this: Australian news channels, because nothing happens in Australia, like nothing happens over here. Like if we have some kind of shooting over here, and people like Jessica, the transmetal alchemist, will back me up on this. If something even like a shooting happens, the news will be all over it, because nothing ever happens over here, which is great. Like it's fantastic. But they also, because nobody's in Australia that has any kind of significance, they struggle to get anybody to back this up. It gets great. Just hold on there. You have to see the Aussie version is fantastic.
Scans align almost identically with a rock formation in the Disruptor site of eastern Turkey. It's near Mount Ararat.
These are timbers of the ship. That's what we're looking at.
It's amazing.
Joining us now is the lead archaeologist.
Yeah, so as you can see there, these are the timbers of the ship. They're not timber. They're not timber. That's the thing. That was a clip taken from Discovered Media, which is kind of their media outlet, before it was shown this was a natural rock formation. So they're not the timbers of the ship at all. So it's just hilarious.
Geological researcher of Noah's Ark scans, Andrew joining us live from Turkey. Andrew, great to have you on. First things first, how long have you and your group been looking for Noah's Ark?
Well, personally, I've been interested in the stories as a child. I first heard about it from Ron Wyatt, who came out to California when I was in middle school. I then came out to see this site that was discovered in 1959 by Captain Durupandar, and we started our research in 2019 on the site.
Yeah, I could not find anything on Andrew Jones as an archaeologist. I'll have a quick another check, but like I couldn't find much on him at all. An archaeologist on Noah's Ark. The only thing I could really find on him was something on the Noah's Ark Scans, that website I showed you earlier. The problem there is, you know, when you actually look at it, it says, you know, this author has not written his bio yet. I don't know what credentials this guy has. It says that he's a Noah's Ark researcher, but I don't know what kind of credentials he has to operate ground penetrating radar or oversee such an endeavor. I've got no idea, and I couldn't find anything about him online really. So it's very odd that he doesn't even have a bio on the website that he's working on. So it's very strange. He's got sort of a blog-ish, but it doesn't really talk about himself. So I don't know who this is. Look, he could be a fully credentialed archaeologist. I don't know. I mean, I'll have another look, but I could not find last night. I could not find much about him at all. Yeah, and so yeah, so Andrew Jones is a hang on a sec. Andrew Jones is a seasoned researcher with a long-standing involvement in Noah Ark stories. It began his teenage years in the 1990s. His passion for the subject led his first visit to the Durupandar Noah's Ark site in 1997 when he was a college student. For what? For what? The expedition proves to be transformative. Originally hailing from California, his extensive visits and immersive experiences in the area have equipped him with a rich understanding of the local culture and the Durupandar site, make him invaluable. Like it doesn't actually give him, any kind of idea about whether he is a credentialed archaeologist or anything like it. I don't know who this guy is. I've got no idea. And the internet seems not really a lot of, it just says he's a researcher, which could be anything, quite frankly. I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's not a researcher. Deviant, do you know that for sure? I don't know that for sure. He has no credentials. Well, I would love to say that I would be surprised if he had no credentials and shocked and appalled that they're trotting this guy out as an archaeological researcher if he has no credentials. But, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And again, I don't know why you would. And look, here's the thing. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. All scientists have got to stop running to a media outlet when they discover something and haven't published yet. Like it's like I was saying, there was a cave found in Africa that had sort of, they made these claims in a Netflix documentary that I saw about these claims about what these I think they were Australopithecines were doing, and it hadn't been confirmed through peer review, and they hadn't actually published on it. We've got to stop having people run to media and say these things that have not been confirmed. It's a problem all round, but it's definitely a problem with these guys that they're running to media and sort of claiming that they've found the Ark or claiming that they found this without it being peer reviewed at all. And so again, I want to point out, I really want to point out that with these scans, and I'll share the scans again, they haven't done a general scan of the area. They like scanned in a boat shape and only published that. But don't forget, this is 2021. This isn't the latest scans that they say that they have. So these guys have not even put it on their website. And we'll hear from this guy later, because this guy's hilarious. I want to talk about him so badly. Bill's great. He's fantastic. I'm not sure what this picture is supposed to show. The pictures look very similar to me, just one's in black and white. I don't understand what it's supposed to show. They sort of say, hey, it's outcropping more. Yeah, people have been digging at the place. I don't understand why that would be a significant factor if people have been trying to excavate the ark, because they have been trying to excavate the ark, they believe there. So, the idea that, hey, the outcropping is more outcropping, it's like, well, I mean, oh, it might have been Homo naledi. Yeah, it might have been that one pinworm. But yes, it was something that I saw on media, and I believed, and then I was very put out that they hadn't actually published a paper for it. And I think Dr. Jay Bundy had a very good point when he confronted Bahi about that these guys know, or I suppose if this guy's not an archaeologist, he doesn't know that, hey, he's got to publish a paper about it before anyone takes him seriously. But it's happening a fair bit, and it's kind of really annoying me because, the place to get taken seriously isn't running to your local news media outlet and sort of getting people on. No, that's not how it's conducted. Publish it. Even if it's just a preliminary, tentative, hey, this might be the case, that's okay. That's okay. Just publish it, like instead of going to and getting the news to announce it. Because, look, the news is going to make the biggest deal out of it they possibly can. That is, yes, that's the Drupandar site. Yes, Kip. That's the one he found ages ago. Now they're saying they've got new ground penetrating radar, but they're not actually publishing it. They're on the news site.
All right. What makes you think that what you have found is actually Noah's Ark and not some sort of, geological anomaly?
Well, first of all, it was noticed because of the ship's shape, and this is the only.
Yeah, so you can see here that bias is creeping in already. You notice it because of the ship's shape, right? So a real scientist would be saying, hey, the outcropping shape is like a boat. That's why it was first noticed. But he's already up front, oh, it's a ship. So these people claimed that these outcroppings that you see there are the ribs of the ship. But the University of California did a study that I showed you earlier that said, hey, these are just natural mineral formations. There's no petrified wood. There's nothing organic about them. They didn't used to be wood. They are just natural mineral outcroppings. So I take it with a really large grain of salt that what they're saying is actually true, because the shape seems to have nothing to do with what they apparently have found.
Only shape people saw out here in 1959 that got the world interested, because it's in the mountains of Ararat, just like Genesis 8:4 says in the Bible, where Noah's Ark landed. So we're in the right area. We have a shape of a ship. And then when you look at the size of it, it is exactly 300 Royal Egyptian cubits. That's what Moses wrote in the book of Genesis. And
well, Moses, okay, that's misleading. Moses wrote did he? Like, we don't know that Moses wrote Genesis. Moses probably didn't even exist at all. But, that aside, he wrote that it was cubits. He didn't say Royal Egyptian cubits. And this is what I was saying earlier, that I think who brought it up? Somebody brought it up that it depends on how much you're taking as a cubit. Because we don't exactly know how far it is. Yeah, Jackson brought it up. Depends on what a cubit is. Right, exactly. So it depends on whether you're using Royal Egyptian cubits or some other cubit. We don't know exactly how it you know, how it was being used in the Bible, as far as I know. I mean, Kip can correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but I don't know if we, there seems to be a lot of wiggle room that you could say, hey, it was cubits based upon this length. We have a sort of hey, it could be from here to here, but that's still a bit of wiggle room as far as how big the boat was.
So, either that's a coincidence or we're looking at the right object. And then we started doing scans. And these are non-destructive geophysical scans that can peer below the soil, like radar and ERT. And they're showing a pattern of structure that you would not expect in nature. And then just last year, we did soil testing on the site, and we found out that it has almost 3 times as much organic matter inside the boat formation versus just right outside it.
Yeah, so you did the soil.
Okay, so you found organic matter, and what really annoys me is they're not doing a scan of the area. They're doing scans in a boat pattern, which is kind of really annoying because what we want to see is a scan of the entire area and see if this is consistent with what's in the air. The problem is that you're pointing to this site and saying, hey, it looks like a ship, but there's other formations that are kind of similar to this around, just not the right shape or just not the right size kind of thing. So, number one, we've not seen this data. Okay, you did soil sampling. That should be sent to a laboratory to be analyzed. Number one, from what's happened with these guys before, I have some doubts about the conclusions that they've made. I have some doubts about their methodologies. I've had some doubts about whether they are even experienced enough to do proper soil sampling. Hopefully they are. But the problem is that all of the information, even on their website, only goes up to their one in 2021. Like there's nothing past there. So they haven't even put this apparently this false, this incontrovertible evidence. They haven't even put it on their website. So they're basically telling us they've made all of these discoveries without actually showing anybody. I don't know how you get hold of this. I would expect if Noah's Ark Scans is doing all of this, that they'd put it on their website first and foremost, but it's not up there. It's a problem. So, is their results up? No. Who did they share their results with? Who's the person, doing anything about it? I don't know. It's really wild. They seem to have just first and foremost gone to tell a news channel what they're doing. Okay, but this was back in January. Why haven't you given your results? You've had months to show your work, and I can't find. Maybe it's me. Maybe they published it somewhere and it's just me, but I can't find it.
Samples, you found potassium in the soil, which indicates that wood was there, right?
Yeah, that's the possibility. The biggest thing, though, is that because we have a higher organic matter, and if you look at the photos of the site, you will see that this is a ship shape sitting on a mountainside. And so if it's just part of the mountainside, you would expect to see the exact same chemical analysis.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gone from it's definitely the arc to it could be organic matter. Yeah, it's possible. Okay, well that's possible and is are two totally different things. And if there is wood there, could it be something else? Could it be somebody built a cabin there? Because like I said, like we've got no scan of the area. All we've got is a scan in a boat-shaped pattern. So if wood is, there's the same substance, do we have any samples of soil in the surrounding area? Right? Like, would maybe there was trees growing there at one point. I really think that you should be doing sampling from not only that formation, but areas near it as well to get a baseline of what should be in the soil. So do we have that? It's all very odd. It's very strange.
From inside versus outside.
How
But we're
deep-
finding that inside is different.
How deep underground is this?
Okay.
So some of the scans, for example, the radar, we're getting data down to about 30 feet, and it's showing subterranean structures and cavities. So there's a possibility that some of these rooms, or you can call it cages or whatever, they're not filled in yet with mud and material, but they're still open spaces.
You know,
Yeah, I great. Do we can we confirm that? Is there any way to confirm it? You know, there's cavities there. Okay. It's possible they're not filled in that. Well, shouldn't you know? You said there was cavities and then you're like, it's possible they're not filled in. Well, if they're filled in, they're not cavities. Why do you say possible? But then again, we don't have this any kind of paper, any kind of, all we've got is their scan in a boat shape and them saying, hey, this is the arc. I don't understand why they wouldn't publish this if it's so airtight. Where's your publication? Where's your report? Give me a damn report on it. They haven't even put a report on what they have found. Like okay, it's wow.
if you haven't perused the book of Genesis lately, it's kind of shocking how many like exact measurements and instructions the book of Genesis claims God gave Noah, like 3 decks this big. I mean, is it really that specific? And does that match what you're finding?
Yeah, so, you know, over time, you expect a wooden ship to decay, but we are noticing that there are layers of material just only inside the ship shape, and we're getting actually 3 big, thick layers.
Well, the problem with that, when he's saying, hey, we're finding this just inside the ship shape, where are the scans outside the ship shape? Right? Like, this is the thing. You've given, like, you haven't given a scan of the area. You've only given the scans of the inside of this formation. That's my major issue. Because if you were going to scan the area for a structure, you would scan the area. And you wouldn't just give the results. You would give the area and say, hey, this structure stands out. This is different than the surrounding scans. Right? Like it seems really weird that they're only publishing this in a shape that is already what they call a ship. It's really weird. I don't understand that.
And then in between those layers, we're finding a central tunnel, like it could be a central hallway. And then to the sides of those, we're finding these shapes, these right angles that suggest walls and rooms.
You're not the first person to claim to find Noah's Ark. Do you think you are the real one to find Noah's Ark?
Well, we hope so. And, you know, until another site is found that matches.
Yeah, there's multiple Noah Ark sites. I once did a debate where I stepped into it thinking they were going to talk about this site. No, this is the most famous one. I think that's I think it is because of Ron Wyatt and his sort of bold claims that he always made about this being the site. But I sort of stepped into it and it was a completely different site that they were talking about. So there's been so many people who have claimed to find, you know, the final resting place of Noah's Ark. I find myself skeptical until they actually produce something. So there was a Noah's Ark Ministries, which was founded by a Korean company or a Korean. It was the NAMI site, which is a completely different place. Like it's, you know, sort of up the mountain a bit. I think it's an elevation of 4 kilometers or something. Like it's actually pretty high up. And they said they found a wooden structure. And even people like Snelling said that their results were terrible. So, you know, there's been a number of these coming up. Andrew Snelling said that this site, the way that they were using the ground penetrating radar, was unscientific. Okay, so even Andrew Snelling, who's usually on board for anything biblical, is saying no, which is hilarious.
We're going to keep pursuing the research here.
All right, Andrew Jones, utterly fascinating. Noah's Ark, right where the Bible said it would be, just a little bit underground. And so far, you say what you're finding matches up. I hope you find more evidence and we can absolutely confirm it. Come on back when you do.
Thank you for.
He has not been back. Just to say that he has not been back. I don't know what happened to this. That it's not on their website. I've got no idea. But as a real treat for you, as a real treat, this is a Australian show and what they do, and this is great. This is hilarious. So yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he hasn't found what it like. So there's a few oddities here. Number one, it doesn't say he's an archaeologist. It says he's an archaeological researcher. Now, to a layperson, that would suggest like, oh, it's an archaeologist. That's what I thought at the time. But as people in the chat have said, he's got no credentials whatsoever. So you know, and the other thing is that you're only providing scans in a boat shape. Like, why you would not do scans for the entire area and point out the difference of the boat shape from the rest of the surrounds is completely beyond me. And yeah, you know, the layperson might not be able to tell the difference. That's where you publish it, produce a report, do something other than go on the news and announce it. And, you know, experts can have a look at it. You know, this is how peer review works. Oh, yes, Jess. Yes, you know it's true. Today will do anything for publicity. They will do. Like I said, nothing happens in Australia. Nothing happens over here. They've got to make do with what they've got. So yes, you're getting Today, but it is hilarious.
Biblical tales. God floods the earth, sparing Noah, his family, and 2 of every animal on board his ark.
Look, I got to admit, this guy's smirking his ass off. Yeah, like this is yeah. This is generally how that's met in Australia. And it was funny in this video, all the comments were like, look at the scoffers laughing and smirking. Oh yeah, they are. You're a Mark Reed researcher? Well, I hope you've got a degree in that. I hope you've done your time, done your degree, and have a credentialed Mark Reed researcher.
Now, an international team of researchers have found new evidence that a famous formation in Turkey could be the site of the ancient vessel. For more, we are joined by researcher William Crabtree from Adelaide. William, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so first off, this guy, William Crabtree, it's actually hilarious, right? So William Crabtree comes from my state and he is a credentialed scientist, okay? He is a credentialed scientist. From University of Western Australia, which is my neck of the woods. You know, I'm from WA, he's from WA, looks like a great bloke. But what's his credentials in? Well, I will tell you. I will tell you what his credentials are in. His credentials, a sec, I'll blow this up a bit, is a Bachelor of Agricultural Science and a Master's in Science from University of Western Australia. Okay, Bill. And this guy, right, his nickname throughout the scientific circles is No-Till Bill. I mean, that works on so many levels, like No-Till Bill, because he is an advocate against traditional tilling practices in agriculture, because he's an agricultural scientist, right? They basically put him across as a soil expert, but he's he works with farms. So, Master of Science in University of Western Australia, this is what he has. The course details is you select from one of the following discipline areas: agricultural environment, biological sciences, earth sciences, human sciences, molecular sciences, psychological science. And yes, psychology is a science, accept it and move on. Agricultural and environment is probably what he's got. That is what I would say his speciality is, because his business is Crabtree Agricultural Consulting. Okay, he is an agricultural scientist. So no-till farming, an interview with Bill Crabtree. Bill Crabtree, also known as No-Till Bill. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right? They've gone and gotten a agricultural scientist to comment on a archaeological find on a geological formation in the Middle East. And don't get me wrong. I'm sure that No-Till Bill is just shit hot when it comes to wheat, right? We have a lot of wheat in the West. We have the wheat belt, right? That's all of our wheat. Like I bet that he is freaking amazing on farming practice. Don't get me, and that's important in society. That's important. But why are we trotting out a guy who's an expert on farming practice for discovery of Noah's Ark? Yeah, absolutely, Jess. Yeah, he's done a ton of, you know, don't get me wrong, he's probably fantastic on farming practice. I just don't know why he's on a show talking about Noah's Ark. It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
You've seen it for yourself, I understand. Tell us about it. Could it be true?
Yeah, well, I went there to have a look because I'd seen a fair bit about it. And as a scientist, I enjoy looking at evidence. And you can see there on your screen, that's what it looks like now. But if you look at it in 1959, when they first took a photo of it, it's very flat. But now it's popped up. And that.
I think that people have been going there a lot, and they've been doing tours. They've been altering the landscape of people. Like, you know, people will be searching for stuff. It's not out of the realms of reason that all of that digging and things like that is going to cause the landscape to change slightly. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It doesn't say that, Jackson, right? It says that Noah was a man of the land, right? Is what it says. Now we assume it's farmer. You know, he was farming, but that, you know, just because we say a man of the land these days is a farmer, we don't know that for sure. All it seems to suggest is that he worked on the land in some way. He was a man of the land, basically. So we don't know for sure. Yeah, maybe. That's true. Yes. It's not really specific. But he certainly wasn't a sailor. You know, like he's certainly, like the text is clear, is a man of the land. I think it's to emphasize that Noah wasn't a nautical person, you know, a man of the sea kind of thing.
Popping up, it came up as a whole structure, and that says something. There's been scans.
Okay, it says something. What does it say? What does it's popping up? I don't. Okay.
Done of it, and that says something. But you fire away with the next one.
Well, what is the new discovery that really supports this theory? Where's the evidence?
Well, the scans. There's been 4 scans done, and those scans are very compelling. There are rectangle shapes inside the boat. It's 3 meters at 7 meters depth. There's a tunnel that goes from the tip that you can see there right down to the middle, and it's big enough that you can walk through it. It's just an incredible shape. Some people think.
Yeah, as much as I hate to sort of say it again, I'm not really going to be blown away by the analysis of an agricultural farmer on geological scans and archaeological evaluation of them. I'm really not. You know, your analysis. Look, if that was like, you know, how much wheat could we grow on that structure, I'd be on board with this guy's opinion. But where's the archaeologists? Where are the actual professionals? Like, I don't see them. Yeah, most likely. Yeah, for sure, Kip. Absolutely. No, fair. Like, as much as I would love to take No-Till Bill's sort of word for it, why aren't these scans being given to people that know how to read them and have the scans being done properly? I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm very confused. Left-handed Jedi gifted 5 red ships. Thank you, Jedi. That's amazing, and you are too good to me, mate. Let's see who they hit. I don't have my chat. Andy, I will get organized one of these days. You wait, YouTube. When I'm organized, you just watch out. Left-handed Jedi hits Ryan Donovan, fresh out of the asylum. Optimus Rhymes 69. Nice. Billy Bongslot. Oh, that's Travis just commenting. Sorry, Travis. Net Tube User. Winners, chicken dinners. Enjoy your emotes and other benefits. Thank you so much. Okay.
Think, oh, you see it's pointy at one end and not
Thank
at
you,
the other.
Jedi.
Well, if they think it was sort of artificial, it could have, naturally made from a rock formation, it would have been around the other way. It would have been pointed at the bottom and rounded at the top. So, that's another part of it. And also there are soil test results that are very interesting, that I had a role with a Muslim professor in Turkey collecting samples, and we've just got the results of those, and I'm very excited about those.
A Muslim professor of what? And maybe you could cite this Muslim because as far as I know, the Muslims they do believe in Noah's Ark as well. So could you cite who it was and how they did their research and methodology, maybe in a report that's submitted somewhere that other people can look at, and maybe experts can say whether this was a good methodology or a bad methodology, and maybe even, here's something wild, repeat it to see whether any mistakes were made, and I don't know, have some sort of, review process that could, go over everything and make sure everything's above board. Maybe just a wild thought. Maybe it could be possible to do that. And Deviant Outcast, who is an Egyptologist, says, okay, I cannot stress address ground penetrating radar cannot be used to come to the conclusion I've come to. It's the structures beneath the Giza plateau all over again. I assume I'm not familiar with that so much, Deviant. Beneath Giza plateau. Okay, I can't spell plateau. Recent studies in experts clash over hidden city beneath Egypt pyramids. Okay. So there are skeptics that sort of say that, hey, you cannot. Yeah, okay. Some experts argue that radar technology may not be capable of penetrating deep enough to accurately match such vast and complex underground structures. Sure. Interpretation of those, yeah. And so, can we please have the data? Please have it. Oh, you did a talk. Yeah, I can't remember seeing that. I must have missed it. I'm sorry. I'll definitely go back and look for it, Deviant. That's not a problem. Absolutely. That's interesting.
Oh, what do those samples say?
They say that the organic matter inside that shape is 2.5 times outside of the shape. They say that the pH is 8 inside, and outside, we took 4 to 6 samples, outside is 9.1 the pH is, and they're very consistent numbers. The potassium level is also 40% higher inside than outside. And if you know anything about soil science, which I'm a soil scientist, the potassium level, organic matter, and the pH could all be affected by organic matter, which if it was a boat and if the wood rotted, then you would...
Well, it could be. Is there any other possibilities? Is there any other possibilities? Oh, Minuteman did a video as well. Okay, cool. Awesome.
See, the evidence would be in potassium, be in pH, and it would be in organic matter.
I mean, this has very much been a mystery for so long. Is that what gives you confidence right now that it will be solved? And do you think this is it?
The evidence is very hard to ignore. It's very easy to ignore if you don't believe in the biblical story, if you don't
It's very easy to ignore if you don't believe in the biblical story. I don't know why your belief in the biblical story should have any bearing on the evidence whatsoever. Something that's evident is evident no matter what you believe. So, um, it seems like you could reverse that and say the evidence is only significant if you believe in the biblical story, which is a different way of looking at it. That you have to sort of assume up front this is the ark. So I'm not even, I don't know. It could be like that. That's fine. It could be. But I think that you need to present this evidence and have experts look at it rather than appeal to the population in general. I don't know how to evaluate ground penetrating radar. I don't know how to evaluate soil levels and pH levels. That's why we have archaeologists, which this guy is not, and we have geologists and things like that, which this guy is not. So it's a bit of a worry, to be honest with you.
Believe in the Bible, but the stories that are linked to it as to where they went, the people that came from there, the groups of people, the First Nations people, they all came from there, if this story is true, which would be shocking because it would put damage to the 60,000 years story, but this would put it at 4,500 years. And all.
So he's referring to the First Nations people as the Aboriginal people of Australia, and there's some people in Australia that don't believe they have been here for the 60,000 years that we have them existing for. So he's talking about overturning, all science, all geology, all anthropology as far as the First Nation Aboriginal people from Australia, and saying, oh, well, they've only been here for, 4,000 years or however since the flood kind of thing, which is kind of ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. We have cave paintings, we have Aboriginal art that has been there for tens of thousands of years. It's I don't know. It's wild. It's really wild.
All the cities that came from the peoples that came from there are all documented in Genesis chapter 10 and 11, and that history has never been disputed. As an agricultural science student from university days, I always remember the Fertile Crescent, which is what we were taught, where civilization came from, and that indeed is where the complex writing is, the cuneiform stuff was written.
Yeah, but that's not where humans came from. We know from genetic evidence that humans came from sub-Saharan Africa. They didn't come from the Middle East. That's the thing. And the people, I believe it's the is it the K haplogroup? That is got the least amount of variance in it, and we know that that's where they come from. I think it's K from memory. Haplogroup K. Yeah, I believe so. Or is it haplogroup L? It's one of the two. No, it's not L. L is different. What's the oldest haplogroup? The oldest extant lineages. Oh no, it is L. Okay, yeah, it is L. L0D and L0K. So yeah, he's basically saying, hey, I've found they've found a scans that show that are only in a boat shape that we believe are sort of structures, that there's cavities in there, and we've also done soil sampling, shows that the organics there. We want to overturn almost all science, as geology, anthropology, archaeology. We want to overturn everything with this. Yeah, no, I don't think so. But, as they say, publish and be damned, sir. Why publish it?
The Gilgamesh epic was written there, and it all talks about, that talks about a flood actually as well. So really interesting.
Yeah, but the interesting thing was that the Epic of Gilgamesh, it wasn't a flood of the entire world. It was a flood of all the land, but, it doesn't say the entire world. I think that that's, It seems like a fish story that's grown larger and larger over time. And the boat in the Epic of Gilgamesh wasn't of the same dimensions that the Noah's Ark was.
William, just quickly, what further testing needs to be done? Is there more testing locked in being done right now?
Yeah, Andrew, the guy that I spent time with my wife, he's hoping to do core drilling, proper core drilling. There was a bit of core drilling done that was very artificial, and it was dry drilling. It needs to be done differently, and you could drill into the cavities if they're there, which the scans show they are, and then you could look around with a camera, and that'd be really interesting. That'd
Do that, sure, absolutely. That would be cool.
Blow things away. It would mess up, our knowledge of geology, really. It's very disruptive, and everywhere I look now I see stones and I see layers and I see limestone and I see stuff pushed up and I see rocks bent, layer upon layer upon layer. Each one of those layers is supposedly 1 million years, another 1 million years, another 1 million years, but yet it's not possible if you've got hard rock laying down and then get bent, it'd get broken. So.
Number one, you're not a geologist, sir. Number two, you can actually do that with enough heat and pressure, so it's not a problem. Like the chemistry of the rock changes when subjected to heat and pressure, which is exactly what it does. So this is a talking point from the creationists that, hey, you see rock layers that are sort of bowed kind of thing, but under certain conditions, geologists say that can happen. So it's not a problem, but this is sort of wow. Hello, Dave. Good to see you. Good to see you, mate. Yeah, Vice Runner. Yeah, absolutely. And the geologists that I've talked to, because I do know some geologists, say, yeah, it can happen with heat and pressure. The rocks that are usually very fragile when sort of flexed can actually be flexed. That's, it is possible. It's very strange for him to say, hey, it would No. I don't know why you'd think that. And you're not a geologist, sir.
Everywhere you look.
All good fodder for the skeptics out there, huh?
You can see how excited.
Yeah, feed me that fodder. But it's funny that the comments are like, oh, look at the host just smirking and laughing kind of thing. It's like it's really hard not to, considering that they've made this discovery at the same site a number of times before, and when people have gone to investigate, there is no fossilized wood. It's actually just natural minerals. There is no metal fastenings. It was just naturally occurring limonite. It hadn't been processed into iron. So it's ridiculous that they've sort of pointed to the same site and saying, no, we're right this time. Maybe it's a case of boy who cried wolf. Maybe it is. But I would take it with a massive grain of salt.
And William is as well.
Exactly.
William, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Okay, so that's the Australian version with no till bill. Look, Australia, every time they get hold of anything even slightly controversial or hilarious, they will run with it. Now, you'll probably know this guy. This is Ken Ham, and this is where it gets really funny, because you would think Ken Ham would be all on board. You would think, right? You would absolutely think that he would be all on board. Yep, it's the Ark. It confirms everything that I've been saying all of these years. Ham. He's not. He's not. It's hilarious.
Oh, once again, Mount Ararat is in the news.
Researchers in Turkey now claim they found indisputable evidence that the story of Noah's Ark was not a cautionary tale, but
oh, hey, Beck, good to see you.
A verifiable historical event.
Noah's Ark has been found.
Okay, so watching this, I was like, oh, of course Ken Ham's on board. Of course he's on board. Look, okay, so for a start, New York Post, I don't know how sort of credentialed or how reputable they are. I don't know. Fox News, I would throw in the trash. News Nation, the only person seemed to be reporting it is this Elizabeth Vargas. I don't know you know, it seemed to be a bit wooey. But CBN is the Christian Broadcasting Network, or I wouldn't trust them to like report on Noah's Ark. I wouldn't trust them. I really wouldn't.
Well, has it? We certainly don't believe it has, actually.
We can rule out the Dura-Pinar site as being Noah's Ark. It is truly just a geologic formation.
That particular site has been researched carefully by our geologist, Dr. Andrew Snelling, and other geologists and archaeologists.
Yeah, as I said, they sent out a team from the University of California, and everything that they said about it, was, hey, it's not what you claim it to be. The ribs are not fossilized wood; it's naturally occurring rock. The fastenings that you've claimed to find are not processed iron fastenings; they're just naturally occurring limonite. And the drogue stones that you've claimed are anchors are just naturally, like the rock is from the area, so it's not an anchor stone because that would be from the area they left from, not the area they arrived at. And they dot the mountains surrounding it. So all of their evidence was nonsense. So this is sort of, maybe it is the boy that cried wolf, but you know, every claim that they made in the past was actually, well, let's say false. I'm not sure knowingly false, but you know, they might have just been a little bit optimistic. But yeah.
But let's consider this. The Bible says the ark landed on the mountains of Ararat, not Mount Ararat, but the mountains of Ararat. It doesn't specify which particular mountain. Now,
oh, well, that's compelling, Ham. That's compelling. It says mountains, not the mountain. Yeah, okay, big deal.
There's a particular claim that there's a site at the foot of Mount Ararat. It resurfaces in the news now and then, as it has again recently, to say, oh, this is the remains of Noah's Ark. But Dr. Andrew Snelling explains in his research that Mount Ararat, actually there's a greater Mount Ararat and a lesser Mount Ararat. The greater Mount Ararat is a cone volcano.
So is it bad that as soon as I know Snelling's like got an opinion on something, I want to believe the opposite? Is that bad? Is that good? Like Andrew Snelling, I don't think that Andrew Snelling is a guy that I would look to for. I mean, he does have a degree in geology, sure. I mean, he's got a degree in geology and is a young Earth creationist. It's wild, but you know, apparently that's a thing. But Snelling, I don't trust Snelling either.
And it's a post-flood structure. In other words, it had to be formed after the flood because it sits on thousands of feet of sediment with marine fossils in there. So the flood had ended, the waters had receded, and this volcano started to erupt. And over time, with multiple eruptions, it formed what we call Mount Ararat. So even if the ark had landed on there, it would have been destroyed anyway by all these eruptions. But the Bible certainly says that when the ark landed on the mountains of Ararat, water still covered the earth to a large degree and hadn't gone down yet. And so it couldn't have been Mount Ararat because it was formed post-flood.
Okay, so basically what he's saying is that there is thousands of layers of sediment, compacted sediment with fossils in them, dead fish essentially, and then you have the volcano on top of that. So his reasoning is that the flood happened, deposited all of these fossils, and then the volcano formed in 4,000 years, presumably 4,000 years after the flood. Somehow, I don't know how that works. Maybe it did form that quickly. I doubt it though. So because the fossils are beneath it, right, and the flood was still ongoing because it took time for the waters to recede, the volcano wasn't there when the flood occurred, so it couldn't have been that mountain. What I absolutely hate is that Ken Ham's come to the right conclusion for the stupidest of reasons. Like, it's actually hilarious that I agree with Ken Ham that there's no reason to think this is the ruin of Ark, a ruin of the Ark, or the remains of the Ark. But for so dumb. Like the reason he has is so freaking stupid. Like it's just so bad. You know, that the flood happened and deposited the fossils. So you know, the volcano came later, so it can't be the ark because, you know, the volcano wasn't. It's just either that or the Earth's not millions of years old. The Earth's not thousands of years old. It's actually, you know, billions of years old. And those were laid down in an earlier, you know, Cambrian explosion or whatever. That's where the fossils came from, or maybe later. And then the volcano had millions of years to form. Oh no, it can't be that because the Bible said it's so. You got to laugh, don't you? That he actually comes to the right conclusion because of the stupidest reason. Like his conclusion is based upon the flood happened and laid down fossils, and then the mountain came later. Therefore, it can't be the ark. Ah, Christ's sake! Like seriously. Okay, so what happens when? So how do marine fossils get on top of there? Well, at one point, you know, Ken Ham's kind of right. I hate saying that. I hate being on the same side as Ken Ham. That hurts. That hurts. But anyway, the fossils basically, it was underwater at one point, so he's kind of right. Who is Frank? Am I missing somebody in chat? Please pray to Doug for Frank to be saved. I don't know who Frank is. Can someone tell me who Frank is? Because I've got no idea. You know, so at one point, because of tectonic plates, that area was actually submerged in the sea. As the tectonic plates move and shift, there's things called subduction zones. Now, subduction zones basically are where the cracks between the plates are, and one will push against another, pushing one up, right? So basically one will go down and be subsumed into the magma, and one of them will go up, these subduction zones. So that's what causes these large mountains to be formed. The Himalayas are where the Indo plate is hitting the Asian plate and pushing up the Himalayan mountains. Now, interestingly, of course, with any of these sort of cracks between the plates, you'll get a lot of volcanic activity along them. So the fact that you've got maybe a plate being pushed down, this one's being pushed up, which used to be submerged, but it's been pushed up. It's not surprising that we'll find volcanoes there. It's not surprising in the least. But what's happened is that the plates have been below the ocean. One's been pushed up and one's been pushed down like that, basically. And then that one that's been pushed up, the magma flows up in the crack and you've got volcanoes. But if you look at the mountain, there'll be the sediment down the bottom of it will be from when it was below the ocean. Completely understandable, completely explainable, and, you know, shows why there is a volcano on top of fossil fish. And all fossil fish that show more basal evolutionary traits than modern fish. Like, this is the thing. And as you go further down, you will find sort of, you know, the more basal or more primitive, I guess, life forms, like, you know, going down to only mollusks and then single cells and then further and further down, which is awesome. And it's completely explainable. But this whole idea that a volcano formed in a couple of thousand years on top of, you know, fossil fish deposited by the flood is kind of ludicrous. It's kind of ridiculous.
Now, that particular structure that they're referring to, other archaeologists and geologists have looked at it and said, you know, there's similar structures in the area and it's just a geological formation and not Noah's Ark. You know, does it really matter if we find Noah's Ark? I had an atheist once tell me, look, Even if you find a big boat on the top of Mount Ararat and drag it down the main street, I'm not going to believe it's Noah's Ark. They are already committed to believe the Bible's not true, therefore.
No, I mean, I think that if you just have a large boat, yeah, maybe not. But if you have solid evidence for it, well, sure. I don't see the problem there. It's just, I don't know that just claims that you've found the ark or claims that there's a big boat is going to outweigh all of the evidence we have on the other side. I if you found it, drag it down the main street. Like building a science center or a museum, and I'll use that term very loosely, in the shape of an ark out in the middle of Kentucky somewhere is not dragging it down. Like, it's that's not how we prove stuff. It's not.
It doesn't matter what you find, we'll reject it. And I think we should be reminded too of Luke 16, the account of the rich man and Lazarus there. The rich man died and went to a place of torment. Lazarus went to be with Abraham, and the rich man wanted Lazarus to go back and warn his 5 brothers about this horrible place of torment. And Abraham said to him, they have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. And the rich man said, no, Father Abraham, but if one rose from the dead, they'll repent. And what did Abraham say?
I don't see the relevance.
If they don't hear what Moses and the prophets said, they will not be persuaded if one rose from the dead. Let me give you an example.
But, I mean, I don't, like, you're basically saying, hey, because you didn't believe this story that we don't know where it came from, let's face it, we don't think that Moses wrote the Pentateuch. We don't think that he wrote about his own death. Like that isn't probably a thing. It's weird. It's so weird. Like that you're like, well, if you don't believe this wild story, then you won't believe the other wild story I'm telling. Well, yeah, that's probably a good thing, right? I think that sort of a lot of the Bible is based around people won't believe the story that we're telling, and that's on them. That's their mistake, kind of thing. It's sort of like a con man saying, oh, well, I know people won't believe me, and that's why it's so amazing. It's really weird. I don't understand. Shouldn't we be basing what we believe on evidence and rational thought, not on a book saying, hey, this is a what? Because you see it all the time. Like when somebody's telling that, you're like, oh, look, you won't believe what happened to me. Does that make it true? No, but it is something that is done, right? You'll never believe what happened to me this morning. That's why I'm so late. Does that mean it's more true? No. No, absolutely not. It may be true, but you don't base it upon them telling you that they're about to tell you a wild-ass story. So I don't know why that should be considered any kind of evidence.
I met an atheist once who said to me, look, if there's a God, why doesn't he come down and show himself to us? Well, he did in the person of Jesus Christ, the God-man. He raised...
Yeah, so that's a problem, right? That's a problem because it's not so much if there's a God. It's only if there is a God that is omniscient, omnipresent, omnibenevolent, and omnipotent, right? So you're basically saying a God that is all-knowing, that is all-powerful, that is all good, and is present everywhere at all times, omnipresent. He exists everywhere at all times. It would be a triviality to take away any confusion that there is a God. It would be a triviality for him to show himself to everybody. But we have to rely on this. If there's a Frank, I'm not seeing him. What? So I don't see why we would have to rely on a story in a book that's been translated and copied and had additions to it. like we know that the long ending of Mark was an addition, an interpolation made by the church, essentially. So I don't know why we would trust that kind of thing. It's very strange to me. It is very, very strange. You know, I don't know why a God who is omniscient, he knows everything, would not understand that that is a very unreliable way to convey a story. It seems very, very strange. You know, and he could clear it up as a triviality kind of thing. Now, you know, you might say, oh, well, that takes away free will. Well, does it? There's plenty of beings that know that God exists. The devil presumably knows that God exists and doesn't worship him. So you can still have an option of whether, you know, you accept God into your heart, even if you know that he's real. So I don't know why that would be a problem for the God. I'm just going to look this up. Oh, I have to go to my Google account. Really? Okay, just give me 1 second. I'm going to try and see here. No, I see Iron Horse blocked and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, Travis, I don't know who Frank is. I don't see them in chat. A Maverick being Frank. Are they actually in chat? I don't see anyone called Frank or Maverick. So I have no idea. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. So let me know, because I think I remember Maverick. He was a guy that got banned for being yeah, I don't see a Maverick or a Frank anywhere in chat. Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, could someone ban that guy? Like, seriously, just ban his ass. Like, seriously. I remember banning Maverick for being really obnoxious before. So if he's somehow blocked me and I can't see somebody in my own chat, just ban his ass. Like, seriously, I'm not doing that. I'm not having somebody a user that I've blocked. Okay. Oh, is it a Maverick being Frank? Gotcha. Yeah, no, I blocked him from my account. Yeah. I thought I'd blocked him from this one. I thought I'd blocked him from this one, but yeah. No, we got it. We got it. So yeah. Banhammer's in the chat, boys and girls. Banhammer's in the chat. No. It's all good. It's all good. It's just I remember Maverick as being a guy that was really obnoxious all the time. And I thought I'd banned him off the channel. Maybe he was like had an alt account. Timed out 1 minute. No. Just hide him on the channel, Beck. When he gets back, just hide him completely. You know, he really was just obnoxious as hell. I think he was banned on another channel, like he was banned on Chris's, like the Damn Network, I think, the Daily Atheist Morning Show, and he sort of just was obnoxious over here as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so if he gets back, just redo it and just time him out. I mean, I can unblock him and see if I can do it. I can do that. Yeah.
People from the dead, healed the sick, did all sorts of miracles, and what they do? They nailed him on the cross. We need to remember.
Well, by they, I mean, he didn't really do them for the Pharisees or the Romans. I mean, I don't think it was the actual people he healed that nailed him to the cross. I think it was other people. But sure, Hammy Ham, you make stuff up there.
That this is a spiritual issue. And in 2 Peter 3, we read about people who reject creation and reject the flood. It says there that they are willingly ignorant, they deliberately reject. It's got nothing to do with the evidence. It's a spiritual issue.
No, it's really got to do with the evidence. No, they just timed him out, Sterling, which is, you know, I want him just hide on the channel and he'll be gone. So this whole thing of, oh, it's a spiritual issue. No, whether this is the ark or not, or whether the story happened, is not a spiritual issue. Like, it may be for you, but if you want to convince me that the ark happened, it's not a spiritual issue. It's a matter of evidence and, you know, it's a matter of fact. Like, you're claiming that this event occurred, and we see a lot of evidence to the contrary of it. So it's not a spiritual issue. We don't just go, well, what does my spirit say about it? No, that's not how we decide whether things happened or not. There's a reason why something called spectral evidence is not allowed in the court of law, right? Spectral evidence is visions and spirituality and feelings and all of this kind of supernatural designations, dreams and things like that. It's not allowed in a court of law because it's so unreliable. Okay, so if I want the truth about what's happened, I don't go to, well, what does my spiritual being say about it? That's not how we figure out what events have actually occurred, and even whether somebody's guilty of a crime. That's not what we do. It's not a matter for spirituality. Like, don't get me wrong, you're entitled to your spirituality. You can, you know, pray to who you want. You can believe in what you want. Sure, have at it. But when you say this event occurred in the past, it is no longer a spiritual claim. It is a historical claim. So don't tell me, oh, well, it's a matter for spirituality. Well, your worship of it, but your claim that it happened is not, especially when you're using that event as a reason why you should change the curriculum in a school, for instance. No, that's not a spiritual matter anymore. That is a historical or an archaeological matter. No.
You know, I also want to express a concern that when we hear all of these claims that they found Noah's Ark or found some remains somewhere they claim as Noah's Ark and so on, there's been so many of these claims.
Yeah, Ken Ham is looking at you, Ron Wyatt. Ken Ham's looking at you. Look, Ron Wyatt, he made that many claims, nearly all of which have been debunked, that it's just ridiculous. And, you know, maybe he has done a disservice to Christianity in general because he's made all of these claims and nobody takes him seriously.
Over the years, I think people sort of become more and more immune to it. The point is...
Yeah. You say this every year. Yeah, they kind of do. Yeah. I hate that I'm on the same page with Ken Ham, but I kind of am. Yeah, but like he's right, but for the wrong reason. His reasoning is terrible, and he's managed to accidentally hit on a correct thought by being so terrible. It's terrible.
We have God's word. We don't even need the evidence of the ark itself. We've got the evidence of the flood. Thousands of feet of sediment with fossils covering most of the Earth's surface. The evidence for the flood is so obvious, and yet the majority of evolutionists would mock at the idea of a global flood.
A majority? I think that if you believe that evolution happened, then pretty much all of them, because yeah, I mean, and it is so better explained by the tectonic movements of the plates and the sort of evolutionary process laying down fossils of a certain type, layer after layer upwards, it's so much better explained than a flood took everything out and then hydrological sorting ordered them in such a way to look like there was, only fish in this age, and then, only mollusks before it, and then, birds only come into it at a certain point, but dinosaurs are always below them. Like, it's so much better explained and so much more rationally explained and lines up with all of these other disciplines than saying, oh, it was a global flood that just happened to sort everything into these layers. I mean, that is ridiculous.
The majority of scientists mock at the idea of a global flood. Why would they believe Noah's Ark could be found, and even if there was a big ship found, that they would say, oh, that means the Bible's true? No, they wouldn't do that. They would reject the Bible and they'd have some other explanation. Well, it's a spiritual issue. We've got to remember.
No. When you start to make knowledge claims about history, it's a historical issue or an archaeological issue. You can't just say, oh, it's a spiritual issue. We've got to just spiritually believe. No, you're making these claims out in the wild, as it were. You can't do that and just say, well, it's spiritual. No, if your claim was, well, spiritually this happened, or it was some sort of lesson or something like that, then yeah, you would have a point. That hey, like some people say, some Christians say that Genesis is just a metaphor and a teaching lesson and all of these things. Okay, that's a spiritual issue, sure. But if you're saying it actually happened, that's no longer a spiritual issue. That is a claim about the actual history of the world. And the fact that he tries to get creationism into schools at any opportunity, he wants them to teach kids that the world is 6,000 years old, and the Bible is basically a history textbook. That isn't a spiritual issue anymore. I'm sorry, you have taken yourself out of the spiritual realm and you're into the realm of science and understanding what happened in the world. So no, you don't get to do that and just go, well, it's just spiritual. No, if it was just spiritual, you wouldn't be pushing it to be taught in schools as fact.
But it's true. If Noah's Ark was found, it'd be the greatest archaeological discovery of all
probably.
time, I think. But you know what? We don't need Noah's Ark to convince us that the Bible's true. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Look around us. We can tell that there's a creator. He made it evident to all. Well,
so his last evidence of God and the Bible being true is that the Bible says that God created the heavens and the earth, and we can look around and see the earth, and presumably look up and see the heavens, even though heavens. I mean, I'm not sure what he's taking as heavens, but I think that is one of the lamest arguments I've ever heard. That is one of the worst I've ever heard, because is it possible that people looked around, saw the earth and the heavens, and said, "Hey, God did this"? Sure. So how do we know that's actually the case? I don't understand this. It is so bad. It's basically, I mean, it's not even at the level of look at the trees, because really that's an argument to complexity, to, things are complex and, complicated. So therefore it is designed by God. I mean, that's at least an argument about, complex functioning of organic things. At least that's an appeal to something. You're just saying the earth exists and the Bible said God did it. Whew. Wow. Yeah, I got to agree, Bob. It's a Poe's law level of arguments. So Poe's law, if you're unfamiliar with it, it basically says that at a certain point, without any indicator that it is sarcasm or parody, creationist, like fundamentalist creationist arguments are indistinguishable from a parody of fundamentalist creationist arguments. That you can be so sure, oh, they're just making fun of. No, they're actually serious. It's indistinguishable. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. But that was Ken Ham getting the right answer, or at least, a skeptical answer for the stupidest reason ever. He is convinced this is not the Ark, or at least he's skeptical that this is the Ark, not because there's a lack of evidence, not because these people have claimed to find the Ark before and, been shown to be incorrect, not because their methodology has been flawed in the past, not because they're trotting out an agricultural scientist to be an expert on archaeology. None of these reasons are the reason. The reason is because they are fish fossils below the mountain, so at a lower layer than the mountain. So the mountain couldn't have been the one the Ark landed on, because that formed in the few thousand years after the flood. I like the conclusion he's made. I hate the process that he's gone through to make it. Like, it's wild that I'm on the side of Ken Ham to start with. Like, I'm never on Ken Ham's side. I just really hate how he's arrived at this conclusion. But, obviously, this was sort of a few months ago. I'd kind of hoped that they would have something since, but they seem to have gone quiet. Now, I don't know whether that's because they're doing further testing. I don't know whether that's because maybe they've realized they've done something wrong. But what I would like to see, and I would like to see it, is a scan of the entire area, them submitting the soil samples, and maybe some actual archaeologists or some geologists doing some investigation of the site. But I would understand why they don't want to. I would really understand why they don't want to, because last time they sent a team out there from the University of California, all of their claims were debunked. All of them. Like, there wasn't petrified wood, there wasn't iron fastenings, there wasn't anything of the sort. And they also found other geological formations, or not identical to this one, but very similar in structure, just not the right size or not exactly the right shape. So it does look like a case of confirmation bias, where they found a geological formation and said it looks like a boat, and we're looking for the Ark. It's not a far cry to say, okay, well, let's fit all of this stuff in. Their website hasn't been updated with any new information. They haven't put any report out there. All of this is very, very problematic. And it's problematic not just for creationist scientists. It's problematic for normal scientists as well. Normal, ordinary, not deluded scientists. I really think, I know that reports and papers and stuff take time to write, but in my opinion, and this is just an opinion of a layperson, there's too much running to the news. And even if the scientists have the best intentions, telling the news, hey, this is what it could be, they always sensationalize it. They always say, oh, well, someone says, hey, we notice a small reduction in the size of this tumor when we do this. They found the cure for cancer. It's in the nature of them to sensationalize it. So I think some more caution is warranted, because that person may have done or found or discovered or had something happen in science that's very significant in that field. But when it's sensationalized by the news, or they play up how significant it is to this large degree, people will dismiss it. It's bad for the scientists in the long run, because not only do they look like they've claimed something that isn't true, they also may not get the funding because people just dismiss it as, oh, well, they've just made all this stuff up. So I think this isn't just a problem with creationist scientists, but this is pretty bad because nowhere can you find any of this data. They've just gone to a news organization, made a big deal about it, even gotten on Australian, sort of news show with a no-till bill. I just love that so much. But the question is, why are they rolling out an agricultural scientist to talk about ground penetrating radar, which is usually geology, that has found a structure underground, which is definitely archaeology? Like I said, I have no doubt that no-till bill is just amazing with wheat and other but to make a bad pun, that is not his field. Literally not his field, because he's an agricultural scientist. So I don't know why they're rolling this guy out, but it is kind of funny. I don't know. I just like No-Till Bill is the predominant expert on Noah's Ark in Australia. It's wild. It is actually wild. But anyway, that brings us to the end of another fantastic Fundamentalist Fails on a Friday. It might be Thursday to you. Dry. They drilled it dry. You can't drill it dry, Beck. Come on now. Come on, everyone knows you can't drill dry. Don't drill dry. Lube up. Lube up, ladies and gentlemen. Lube up. Don't drill dry. All right? Just don't do it. I don't know. That was hilarious. I just love No-Till Bill. Look, he's probably a great guy. I saw him trying to be cautious. He was sort of saying, possibly it's this, possibly. Okay, that's good. That's a good thing. You're being a bit cautious, sure. But why No-Till Bill is being interviewed on Noah's Ark in the mountains of Ararat, it blows my mind. Anyway, yeah, do take care. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. I just hate that I'm on board with Ken Ham. It hurts. It hurts that I'm agreeing with Ken Ham. It hurts my soul. What soul I don't have. Obviously I'm an atheist. I don't have a soul. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody. This has been a blast. I'm so glad I shared that with you because yeah, wild, right? Do be kind to yourself. Do be kind to each other. Even No-Till Bill. Be kind to No-Till Bill. Okay, he's a look. He's an agricultural scientist. He does good work. Just not in the field that he's currently working in. That's all. Do take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, thanks, Beck. Like, subscribe, share with your friends if you do want them to have a good laugh at No-Till Bill. I love it. But yeah, take care, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.